Hi, welcome to How to Digitally Mist a Stencil, a tutorial for digital scrapbookers and other hybrid artists, by Don Farias of Don by Design at donbydesignstore.com. The supplies you will need for this tutorial are Photoshop Elements or Photoshop, a background paper, a digital stencil, and digital paint brushes. My supplies for today are Photoshop CS6, a background paper and digital stencil from the Butterfly Collection by Carla Dudley at Pixels & Company, and the Misty brush pack from my own site, donbydesignstore.com. The basic steps are simple. You will open up your paper, your stencil, stamp your stencil onto your paper, create a mist layer above it, and then cut the stencil out of that layer, and then hide your stencil. Let's see what that looks like now. Here I've got my background paper. The stencil I'm using today is from a brush pack. However, in Carla's collection, again called Butterfly, she provides her stencils also in individual PNG files. I'm just choosing to go with the brushes today. If you choose to use a PNG file, say from a doily or a piece of lace or something else like this butterfly I'm using, you would just open it up and paste it onto your background paper wherever you'd like for it to go. For today's purposes, I'm just going to create a nice big stamp in the middle of my paper. The one thing I want to do before that is to create a new layer above my background. And with that new layer highlighted and active, I will place my stamp. Now it's time for the Misty paint. I would like another new layer above this before I get started. And this layer will remain active for the rest of the tutorial. I'm going to choose a paint color different from my stamp. And I'm going back up to my brush palette to choose my Misty paint, which I've already loaded. Now, watch what happens when I just place a bunch of mist all over this stencil. It looks fine. Actually, with Misty paint, you can get away with a lot without having to be particular. But if you'll notice, it's got a particular density at the top, which is heavy, and it's all the same from left to right. And it's got a light density at the bottom, which is all the same from left to right. What I would like is a more natural look, more random. So I'm going to delete this layer, create a new one, and come back up to my brush palette. I'm going to choose Shape Dynamics, make sure everything is set to 0 except for the angle jitter, which I've got at 50%. Again, with the mist brushes, as opposed to say a paint splat brush, you don't have to be very particular. You can get away with a lot of error or just simply not paying too much attention. So the 50 will work fine. Now I'm going to brush away with wild abandon, and you can see my brush rotating. And this is going to give my mist a more natural look. I'm focusing the main part of the mist right on top of the stencil. So now that that's done, my next step is to cut the stencil out of the mist. I cannot do that like I would in the real world. In the real world, I would just remove the stencil. If I were to just hide my stencil here, nothing would change. What I want to do is select the stencil with marching ants. I'm going to do that by using the Command button on my Mac. You would use the Control button on your PC. So Command, over my Layers palette, I'm going to click on the thumbnail image for the layer. I'm not going to click on the layer. I'm going to click on the thumbnail image of the layer. And you see I've got marching ants. Please notice my layer did not have to be active in order to choose that. I've still got my mist layer active, which is the one that I'm working with. Now that the marching ants are surrounding the stencil, I'm going to Command X to cut it out. You can't quite tell yet that it's cut out. So now I'm going to hide the butterfly. And look, I've got a beautifully digitally misted stencil that can be the wonderful basis for a beautiful background for your page. Here's the page I created using this skill. Again, using the butterfly collection from Carla Dudley. The alpha is from my Sophisticate kit, which you can also find at dawnbydesignstore.com. Please visit the blog for a more detailed discussion about this tutorial, along with links and other kinds of pertinent information. Thank you for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed the tutorial. If you make a project using this tip, please share it with me. For contact information, find me at dawnbydesignstore.com. Thank you.